Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, the Horror Boy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today we'll be getting to the next review in the Planet of the Apes franchise, and that is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this movie came out in 1972. Get a 6.1 on IMDb, which is way too low. A 6.1 for this movie, way too low. Directed by J. Lee Thompson, of course, starring Roddy McDowall again, this time playing Caesar, who is the son of Cornelius and Zira. Of course, little Milo from the third movie, who's renamed in this as Caesar. You also have Don Murray playing Breck. You have Ricardo Montalban playing Armando, who is the character from the third movie, which for some reason didn't have him on the cast here, so I didn't really know where he was in the cast. But Armando, the circus owner from the previous movie, he comes back in this movie. You have Natalie Trundy come back in this movie as a character called Lisa. And you have Harry Rhodes playing McDonald. You also have Severin Darden as Culp, who I think would come back in the next movie. Yeah, I think he ended up being the villain of the next... Yeah, it's really crazy. He actually ended up being the villain in the next movie. And he was first in this movie. Now, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is one of those Planet of the Apes movies I didn't really hear much about. And I want to start this review by saying this is one of the most underrated science fiction movies I have ever seen. It really is. This movie is amazing. This is up there with the first movie, the third movie. It is a top quality film. And if I were to do a ranking of the Planet of the Apes movies, it'd be very hard because you have Battle and you have Beneath, which are like but then you got movies like this and Escape from Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Just these amazing, amazing films that are up there. They're top quality movies. And this movie is definitely no exception. This is a phenomenal film. And is definitely the darkest, tone-wise, of the Planet of the Apes movies. The things they're doing in this movie are just mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing for the times. And how they pulled it off and how practical everything was. And this is before CGI, so you have everything being done for real, in camera, special effects, which I thought were, for the time period and for the budget, excellent in this movie. And there's a lot of things in this movie that I think are excellent. And the plot is one of those things. And the story to this movie is you have little Milo grown up in this movie, who eventually is renamed Caesar. And he is being taken to this place where the future that Cornelius mentioned in the third movie has kind of come true. Where humans are now using apes they're using them as pets, but now they're using them as slaves. And they're auctioning off these different apes to people for people to use them as slaves. And I guess at this point in the story, I'll just call him Milo. Milo sees everything going on that's wrong. Like, they're training these apes, pour this glass of water. You did it wrong? They start beating him. Do this. You did it wrong? Starts beating these apes. And it's just a really crazy plot that it's just mind-blowing when you're watching it. Very, very mind-blowing. This is definitely a very impactful film and a very powerful film. And eventually he ends up being a part of, don't know if it's really this prison. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a prison. It's this area where they're holding all these apes at, and they're auctioning them off, this facility. And Caesar ends up getting separated from the Armando character. Armando ends up getting questioned by the authorities, and Caesar is kind of just trying to fit into the facility, trying to fit in with all the other apes, and eventually begins to teach them how to use weapons and how to be smart and how to say no to the humans, and eventually launches this revolt against the humans. And the ending of the movie is basically just the apes going on rampage mode and just completely destroying this facility and taking everybody out in its path. And Caesar, by the end of the movie, it's one of those brilliant character arcs where at the beginning of the movie, it's Milo. It's this young ape who is smarter and more intelligent and, of course, is the son of, Cornelius and Zira. He's very emotional and doesn't really know how to be, why am I here? What am I doing kind of thing. And by the end of the movie, he's Caesar. And that arc in this movie, I thought, was one of the best things of the film. They really nailed the changing of the character of Milo into Caesar. And it really is a change. And to see this movie, I would definitely recommend seeing this film in this box set. Because in this box set, they have the unrated cut. The unrated cut has more blood, more violence, more extended scenes, and has the true ending to the film that was meant to be seen. And that ending, to me, is what really adds the power to the movie. Now, if you've seen the theatrical cut and you've only seen that version, I feel like you're not seeing the movie at its full potential. Because the studio, of course, got a lot of complaints to it from people saying how this movie was too dark, it's too gritty, it's too violent, and the ending is too downbeat. And so the studio went back and changed the ending to the movie to make the Caesar character pretty much say, oh no, no more violence, no more killing, we must be at peace with the humans, we must work together with the humans, and I no longer want violence, I no longer want death. And I get it, what they were trying to do, they didn't want it to be so downbeat, but the ending of this movie had to be this downbeat, because the Caesar character in this movie, which, by the way, I must say, one of the best performances by Roddy McDowall. I'm a big fan of this actor. Now, granted, I haven't seen every single one of his movies, but from Planet of the Apes, Escape from Planet of the Apes, from Fright Night, I'm a big fan of this actor. Even in a movie like Battle of the Planet of the Apes, which isn't terrible, but isn't fantastic, I think he's great in that movie, acting-wise. His performance in the movie is still great. In this movie, he really gets a chance to be the thing that steals the show. And Roddy McDowall's performance in this movie is breathtaking. It really is. I don't use that term very much, but it is absolutely breathtaking in this movie. The journey this character Caesar goes on is so detailed and so well pulled off. It is definitely one of the best, if not the best thing about this movie, is seeing his performance, the change of the character, the scenes and the character moments of Caesar. And you also have great villains. Villains that make you absolutely hate them. And there's a point where you're like, yeah, man, the humans suck, yeah. And you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm a human, so what the hell? So, they did a good job making you hate the villains. You absolutely hate the villains in this movie. And when Caesar is being captured and tortured, the acting, the way it's directed, the way it's pulled off, this movie is such a well-made movie. It is crazy to me that this film is not talked about more. And I don't know if it's because of how dark it is, or because of the ending being changed around a lot, or if because I don't think it really performed that well in the box office. I mean, I'm assuming it did better than Battle of the Planet of the Apes, but it didn't do as big a numbers as they probably thought it was going to do. So I don't really know if it didn't bomb because it got a sequel, but it probably wasn't a huge hit. I don't know, it's just a really underrated movie that nobody ever talks about, and there's so much to it, from the music, from the dark tone, the lighting in this movie, the cinematography is on point. this movie has an atmosphere to it. It is a very mean-spirited movie, but I feel like it's for the better. Like, it adds so much to this movie. The camera work, the cinematography, the acting, and also having the plot it has. Yes, it's a very dark movie, but it is a very interesting movie. It is a very well-made movie, and it is a very powerful film. Everything from the set design to the action sequences, the last like 20 minutes of the movie when the riot is happening, every little detail of that was done well, from the fire stunts they do, from the various amounts of other stunts that happen in the ending. The ending is just very, very well done. A very crazy climax to the movie. And yeah, I think it's got a great cast to it. They all do an amazing job. You feel so bad when Armando dies because he'd rather commit suicide than be forced to tell the humans the truth. That he knows who Cornelius and Zero are. He knows about whatever happened. And so they're basically trying to force him to tell them what's going on. And he goes like, screw this, and he jumps out the freaking window and kills himself. It's a very crazy, very, very dark movie. And I could definitely see, like, okay, back in the day it would be very shocking. But I don't know why everybody was outraged, because the first movie and the second movie are still pretty dark movies. Like, you still have people getting shot. There's a point in the first movie where someone has brain surgery done on them, and they're pretty much brain dead. Lots of, like, religious undertones in those movies, and lots of death, and people dying. Like, the first two movies are pretty dark as well, but this is definitely the darkest one, and I feel like it's a very powerful story, man. It's very well told. And it's a story of how far do you go until you go too far? When do you step over the line? When does it become the cycle of violence? And that's very interesting in this movie, because the series brings it up a lot, where it talks about the cycle of violence, the endless, repetitive violence. And I love Battle of the Planet of the Apes. Like, one aspect of it that I really loved is the idea of breaking the cycle of violence, ending the wars, ending the conflict, all of that, I thought was done great in Battle of the Planet of the Apes. Not a fantastic movie, but one aspect of that movie that I really enjoyed was it was able to wrap everything up that happens in the stories throughout the movies in that movie. It's a good finale for the story in Battle of the Planet of the Apes. But this movie does that, where Caesar becomes this likable character who you're rooting for, but by the end you have this feeling where he's gone too far, where people are dying, and literally the ending is him bringing just, the apes are like stacking up bodies, piles of bodies of blood all over them, in these stacks of bodies, and people being brung out and murdered right in front of Caesar, and he just coldly kind of stares at it. And he gives this speech in this absolutely wonderful scene that I thought, amongst a lot of other scenes in this movie, was a signature scene. It was definitely a standout scene where he gives the speech where he's talking about how, where there is smoke, there is fire. Or where there is fire, there is smoke. And from that smoke, my people will rise and take over. It's a great speech, and it is extremely well written and well pulled off in the movie. And the ending had to be dark, because the Caesar character has already went too far, so he wouldn't stop. Even though the character McDonald is telling him, like, hey, this is crazy. Like, you're going way too far. You need to stop. And basically Caesar's like, why should I stop? The humans have tortured us this whole time. Why should I stop? And of course, the main villain gives a speech as well, where he's like, do you know why humans hate apes? It's because deep down inside of us, we all still have an ape there, and we hate it. And he gives a great speech. And then, of course, Caesar gives the order for the apes to kill him. And the ending is basically Caesar standing there, fire everywhere, and you're wondering, okay, is this the restart of the Planet of the Apes storyline? Are there going to be, apes everywhere, and the whole planet's going to take it over again? It just, once again, does a great job at making you want to see a sequel, want to see a continuation of the story. It has a very powerful script to it and story, and a lot of great scenes that are very memorable in this film. The scene where Caesar finds out that Armando died was a powerful scene, where Roddy McDowall's crying, and there's no music in that scene. And it makes it very effective where he's crying, and then he, look of anger on his face, and then he screams, and he takes off running, and he's just, he's determined to take down the humans. Very, very powerful scene. Or the scene between Armando and Caesar at the beginning of the movie, where Caesar is like, I'm not sure about this, I want to go home. And he's like, I know, and they hug, and Caesar's crying. It's a very, very emotional scene. Lots of emotional scenes in this movie. And yeah, it's a crazy movie, man. It's very, very powerful, very well made. One of the best science fiction movies I've seen. Yes, it has a very dark tone. Yes, there's not a lot of fun moments, and it's not like it's a fun movie. But it is an extremely well made movie. It is acted well. It's got great special effects, great makeup effects. It's got some awesome scenes, an amazing plot, and the atmosphere, the dark, shadowy, with very little lighting atmosphere. It's just a very grim movie, but it's extremely well made. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, once again. Yeah, very, very excellent movie, well made. Roddy McDowall steals this freaking movie. He does amazing. He steals the show. Yeah, 8.5 from me. If you've seen the movie, what would you rank it out of 10? But anyways, thanks so much for watching. That was a very quick review. I wouldn't really say quick, but that's pretty much it for my review on Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It's a very well made movie, has a great plot to it, and did an excellent job at continuing the story of Planet of the Apes. I forgot to mention real quick, I'm glad I remembered it right now, I forgot to mention if there was any problems with the movie. There are little nitpicks here and there. I wouldn't say they're big problems. Stuff like, okay, the police would not just grab somebody and force them to tell them the answers. Like, the villains in the movie are doing things where I'm like, okay, that would never really happen. Like, they wouldn't be able to just yank somebody up and take them and question them like that. Maybe sometimes you can tell people are wearing pullover masks and not the makeup appliances, but it's not too noticeable. And maybe the blood looks like pretty much red paint in this movie. But besides that, everything else is nailed. From the music to cinematography, the direction, the acting, the story. Pretty much everything else is not about this movie. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10 from me. A lot of good things in this movie. I definitely recommend this movie. It's very well made. But anyways, guys, thanks so much. Check out my review on Conquest of Planet of the Apes. And I'll be seeing you guys later for the review on the final film in the original Planet of the Apes franchise, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. But I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for watching the review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Explorer 4 is out. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.